Meeting will come to order. Let me get to the right place in the book. Sorry. I now call this workshop of the Bryan Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present, that this workshop has been duly called, and that notice of this workshop has been posted in accordance with Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. We want to extend a warm welcome to everyone who's present today. Citizens may make comments about topics relevant to district business. Topics should be limited to 3 minutes, and comments concerning specific students or personnel will be heard in closed session. Do we have any citizens' comments?
No.
Thank you. There being none, I'm going to ask that you turn off all the sound on your electronic devices. And first on our agenda are a couple of spotlights. So we're going to start with our campus spotlight, the Bowen Elementary Sign Language Club.
Hello. If you'll use the microphone.
We've got a little slideshow for you guys. Good morning, or afternoon at noon already. Here we go. So we are here today from Bowen Elementary to chat with you about a very special part of our campus that's brand new to us this year that we're very excited about, and that's our Sign Language Club. So our Sign Language Club is sponsored by our interpreter, Miss Jennifer Sugar. She's standing right here. I'm going to have her swap out so that she can come and join me. Thank you. Ms. Shugart is one of our full-time interpreters with Bowen Elementary, and she spends most of her time with students in second grade classrooms and first grade classrooms. And so, next slide for me, please. Where are we at? Clicker, you said? Okay, awesome. No worries. So we just
use
want
the mic.
Yep.
Either that one or the handheld.
You got it.
Either one.
Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay, much better. Okay, so we are Alton Bowen Elementary School, but we are also, which is important to note, that Bowen Elementary we house for the Brazos Valley Regional Day School for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing. So all of the students who are deaf and hard of hearing in our region also attend Bowen Elementary. And we'll give you the specifics of who that actually is, but it's something we're very excited about. And we need to share more often about our friends who attend this specific program with us. And so Bowen, being the Bobcats, our students from the region, they might come from us, from an hour, 45 minutes away each day, but they are Bowen Bobcats every single day. We know that our deaf and hard of hearing students are unique, that they come to us with their own specific set of challenges as well as their unique personalities that bring such love and attention to Bowen Elementary. So it's important for us that we incorporate that community into Bowen Elementary as one. We absolutely know that they are teaching us more than we are teaching them. Here's our clicker. Maybe. I think I've only got 5 slides. Let's see. Okay, so there's the list of schools districts that we serve at Bowen Elementary. So if a student resides within one of these districts and requires our services, then they will be bused to us. And we have students who come to us from Thorndale, Rockdale, Caldwell. We have quite a few students that are coming to us. So this is a nice exhausted list of the friends that we get to have with us. And I'm going to let Jennifer chat a little bit. So the Sign Language Club is a new endeavor this year, and it came to us from Jennifer Sugar, and I'm going to let her speak to that for just a minute.
Okay, I started the Sign Language Club this year because there were so many students that kept asking me in class, hey, how do you sign this? Oh, I want to tell my friend this. I want to do that. And I've actually thought about it years ago, but I was unable to do it because of stuff after school with my own children, so I couldn't do it. But this year it worked out that I could stay after school, and we had 21 kids that would stay with me, and we taught them for like 30 to 40 minutes every Thursday after school. And so it was just amazing that so many kids wanted to be there, and I actually had more kids that wanted to join, but I was like, oh, I can't have more than 21 babies at one time. So we're going to do it again next year, and we'll see how many kids come for that.
Hopefully we'll pull in somebody else, probably Miss Cheryl Brown, who's over here, so that we can extend. We limited it this year to just our friends who had students who were deaf of hard of hearing in the classroom. So we only opened it up to those first and second grade students. With this year, those kids are going to move up a grade, and so we'll open it up. And if we get some younger ones in, then we'll start to add in some of those. But ultimately, we want our little friends here to be able to give you guys an insight on Sign Language Club. So meet our group. You guys want to stand up for me? Okay. And they are going to introduce themselves with their name. I'm going to let Ms. Jennifer talk about how their names are chosen really quickly.
Okay, so typically in the deaf community, a deaf person will give you your name sign. So what we've done here is McKenna has given our friends name signs, and usually the name sign comes from either a personality trait or a physical characteristic, and a lot of times it is the first letter of your name, but it doesn't always have to be. So we'll let them introduce themselves.
My name is Hannah.
Hannah.
My name is McKenna. My name is Brianna. My name Madeline.
Awesome job. Very good. So we've got Hannah, McKenna, Brianna, and Madeline. Thank you guys so much. Okay, we want to show you real quick what they are able to do. This is our entire sign language club. Let's see if that will play with my clicker. Let's see if Clay.
Poor Clay.
Poor Clay.
It keeps him on his toes.
Uh-oh. Okay, there we go.
Ready? Yep. Go. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Awesome job. And Clay, the next one is going to be played. What we've noticed too is that it's important that everybody feels very included, and so we've made sure to incorporate a sign language component into all of our music programs this year at the request of Sign Language Club. And so this was our second and third graders just last week. There's just a short snippet here too, Clay. Isn't that fun? We're having so much fun making sure that this is a really important piece of Bowen Elementary. And so we're going to let these kiddos tell you just a little bit about what they think about Sign Language Club. So this is Hannah. Hannah, you show them your name sign one more time. Hannah. And Hannah's going to tell you why she likes Sign Language Club.
I like Sign Language Club because I can talk to people like McKenna.
Thank you so much, Hannah. This is McKenna. McKenna, will you tell us why you think Sign Language Club is important with your friends?
Because if I can. No, you didn't. Okay, I want to know you down. Don't have a number phone.
Very good job. Okay, Brianna's going to talk to us about why it's important to have, for us to talk to you about this and what's the importance of Sign Language Club.
Because if I want to talk to McKenna and Josiah, I won't have to, if I want to talk to them, I won't have Miss Jennifer having to sign what I want to say.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And this is Madeline, and she's going to tell us why is it important that we are talking to you guys today about Sign Language Club.
So we can tell y'all everything fun that we did in Sign Language Club.
Thank you, sweetheart. Okay, guys, awesome job. They're going to teach you guys real quick, if there's time, real fast. They would like for the board to join in with them, and we're going to teach you guys a couple of things, so please join along. So with Miss Jennifer, she's going to help. We're going to teach nice to meet you to the board. Guys, show them. Let's make them. Let's see what they're doing. Make sure they're doing it right, girls. Ready? Awesome job. Nice. So everybody together, one more time. Nice to meet you. Okay, let's teach them good morning. Good morning. Again, with Miss Jennifer.
Mr. Stasny and I are a little bit slow over here. So.
Thank you. And we wanted to give you guys a fun one because this is always, everybody needs to be celebrated, especially when it's your birthday. So let's show them happy birthday. Happy birthday. And Hannah's really good at showing us happy birthday. Hannah, will you show them happy birthday to you? Excellent job. Thank you. And the last one we're going to show you guys is We Love Bryan ISD. And so let's show them We Love BISD. We love Bryan ISD. Very good. Thank you guys so much. This is Bowen Elementary and Brazos Valley Regional Day School for the Deaf Sign Language Club.
Amazing. Thank you all so much.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Ms. Gass, I know that once upon a time at Bryan High, we had American Sign Language as
A class.
foreign language. Right.
Right.
And kids could get a second language
Yes.
credit. Well, I know we had a really hard time finding certified teachers.
Absolutely. Still true.
So we have really got to go to work because these kids will be at Bryan High in Rudder in 2030 through 34. So we need to make plans because it
We
looks
sure
like
do.
we're going to have a big group at the high schools in 2030
We absolutely
through
do.
34.
And these ladies were certainly shy up here, but they have lots of language skills. It's very, very fun to watch them communicate in the classroom. They don't need an interpreter very frequently at all. They're very talented, so
And
we're proud of them.
I bet by then the fun and the enthusiasm will grow.
Yeah.
And so it sure be worth it because we'd have a lot of kids getting more credits in a wonderful career.
That we could hire up in Bryan ISD.
Right, because, and I don't know, ladies, if you really realize it, but Miss Jennifer gets paid money to do what she's doing.
But not for this.
I know. And so you could actually grow up to be a sign language teacher, or you could do sign language in your church. You could do sign language in the Capitol in Austin. You could do sign language in a lot of places and get paid money to do it. So it's not just something that's fun and great to communicate with your friends, but it's actually a career. So that's just something extra to look forward to.
We're very proud of them and the group that's coming. We have a select number of kiddos too. They're also in first grade that we're doing that. And if you guys don't mind, I've got a little snippet, and we can cut it short, Clay, if we need run out of time. But I want to end with you guys our first grade performance. They were able to do a sign language song, and so I've got about a minute of that with our first grade, and that's young. That's 6 years old, and so our 6-year-olds are really starting to pick up on this. And the very last slide, yes. One more. Yeah, there we go. You can click it. It should take you to a YouTube link. There we go. Hopefully it'll work. Oh, no. That's okay. I'll send it to you guys. It's fantastic. Thank you guys so much for having us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Tell them thank you.
Thank you. And I think Ms. Waller was saying you're hired. So just let us know when you're ready.
Exactly.
Let us know.
And I've got a little, so that you guys can see what they've been working on all year, a fun little packet of things, and you can take home and learn too.
Thank you. Thank you.
Most college classes, Dr. Yeah, don't y'all have a lot of
Yes,
sign language?
my daughter took sign language all 4 years of high school and 3 years in college.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, thank you for that wonderful spotlight from Bowen Elementary. Next, we have our Bryan High School,
International Baccalaureate Senior Projects Exhibition.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. Is this working?
Yes.
I'm just going to introduce very quickly Sarah Patterson, who's our IB coordinator at Bryan High, and she has brought some fabulous students with her to get you guys hopefully excited about coming to their exhibition this coming up in a few weeks.
So these kids might not quite be as cute, but they're still pretty precocious. I've been with the IB program since it started in our first teaching in 2009, and I am still amazed at both the breadth and the depth of work that our students produce. And we're trying to really showcase that more and more in a public setting. And so we are doing an exhibition with all of our diploma students and even some of our certificate students on May 23rd. And so hopefully you have seen the little blue invitation at your desk. But I've got two seniors here. I'm going to let them introduce themselves and briefly just give you a foretaste of what you might get to see when you come.
Hi, my name is Teresa Starnes. I'm a senior at Bryan High School. Next year I will be attending the University of Dallas. And so for my exhibition, I will be displaying my art and also a history paper that I wrote. This is not my piece, but that piece is, and for each of the art students, we have a theme they have to stick by. So this is my little brother depicted as the god Apollo, so that's why it's all yellow and stuff. So that was my exhibition theme. And then this is also one of our other fellow students. This is his self-portrait that he did of himself, and so we're both going to be displaying our artwork, and we would love for y'all to come.
Talk about your history paper.
Oh, sorry, okay. My history paper talks about the cultural impact of Sweet Eugene's Coffee Shop in College Station, if you've heard of that coffee shop, and also the impact that the shop has had on coffee culture, if you've heard of that before. So that's also what I'm talking about in my exhibition.
Hey, hi guys. My name is Mason Rice, and I'm a senior at Bryan High. I'm going to be attending Texas A&M next year studying business. So for my exhibition, I'm going to be presenting the paper, the end-of-year math paper I did last year, and it's over this domino game called 42. I'm sure a lot of you have probably heard of that. But growing up, I'd play this game a lot with my family, and there would be times where like my grandpa would just get a perfect draw and be able to like lay them all down and like basically win the game without having to play. And I was always like really jealous. Like I want to be able to do that. So I basically wrote a paper studying what the probability of that happening, all the different combinations and ways you can basically know you're going to win before the game even starts. But anyways, yeah, guys, I'd love to see you all there. We have a lot of cool stuff to present, and all of y'all are formally invited. So
thank you.
Thank you.
Hey.
So yes, we do have art, math, science, music, literature. I mean, there really is a lot of breadth and depth, and it's fun for me to even see, and I'm aware of some of these things that have been going on. So we really do look forward to seeing you guys there.
And Ms. Starnes, I'm sorry I didn't recognize you. Trey and Teresa, they've started kindergarten together, so I don't recognize you. You're so welcome, so proud. We knew you would do great things, and neighbors, we have neighbors here, so thank you for all of your hard work. Y'all are absolutely an asset to the district. Thank y'all.
Thank you for all of your hard work as well. We really appreciate all that you'll do. So.
Thank you.
And you guys are so well-rounded. Just because you're in IB doesn't mean, kids or people think that you're in IB and you can't really do anything else because it takes up all your time. I know both of you are athletes, and Matt's like everything in football. And did you run track too?
Not this year, but I have.
Yeah.
I did freshman through junior year. I did not this year. I was working.
And I've watched her run the neighborhood hundreds of miles. Hundreds
Neighbors, so.
Yes, I know. And
I would hope so. I was kind of nervous there for a minute.
that looks just like your little brother. That is so crazy, yes. So anyway, IB to me is always, and I think you have a cheerleader, Macy, I know. IB is just your well-rounded kids.
Yes, they really are. They're, very academically proficient, but they're in all manner of extracurriculars, whether it be sports, fine arts, they hold jobs. We've got Eagle Scouts. They're rock stars.
Congratulations. Thank you, guys. We look forward to the exhibition.
Where's Capstone? That's what where's our Capstone?
Well, we need to get them in
I will
next.
make a call.
We rotate the
Yes.
spotlight.
Oh, do we?
so,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so next we have a couple board committee updates, and so I'd ask that our board members keep it brief.
Yes, ma'am.
So first from the Finance Committee, Mr. Stasny.
Okay, well, we had our meeting on April 18th. Dr. Davis, Mr. McCall, and myself were all present, along with several members of staff. We talked about fencing projects, and especially with a light towards the legislature possibly requiring or expecting us to do things differently than we used to try to make campuses more secure. A lot of unknowns there still, and a lot of studying I think that still needs to go into that. Merrill Green Stadium scoreboard is pretty much reached its expected lifespan, or maybe past that, and so looking at options there to possibly replace that. Also will require working with the city with regard to possible zoning issues and so on, as to whether it will be seen from the outside the stadium along the street. So several issues there. And then we talked also about school finance, which is, once again, is not unusual that in the legislative year, so many unknowns that it's very hard for us to really make some strong decisions about how we're going to handle salaries and well, lots of other issues, everything having to do with money, because we simply don't know what the legislature is going to do. So a lot of discussion, but not a whole lot decided, but we at least learned where we are.
Perfect, thank you, Mr. Stasny. And with the Technology Committee update, Mr. Gonzalez has that one.
Thank you, Dr. Harlan. And I got in a little late because it was our technology meeting and I couldn't get on Zoom, so I thought that was very appropriate. First thing we talked about, this was April 20th. It says 10 p.m., but I believe it was 10 a.m. First thing we did, we talked about software renewals. The administration provided an update on our current student information management system that's up for renewal. I think we're going with a new one. A lot of the teachers and staff are very excited about it, so I think that's a great thing. And we went through the details, and I know we'll get more details at our May board workshop later on, but it is not going to be any additional cost to the district. I was very excited about that. Technology purchases for the upcoming school year. We're in the process of preparing orders for replacement devices for staff and students based on the standard computer replacement cycle. We also provide an update on the status of student devices at middle schools and the high school level. And lastly, we are working on our board software demonstrations. The district is continuing to evaluate providers of board software solutions, and they're in the process of scheduling software demonstrations for us to take a look at. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for keeping that short. Appreciate it. We have a few information items. We're going to start with the Aspire Academy update.
Good afternoon again. I come to you with just some brief updates. You know, we did a lot of planning, met with lots of people in the fall, and the work has continued into the spring. We have accepted approximately 470 students between all three intermediate campuses. We had well over 500 applications. And the good thing about Aspire, since it is at all three intermediates, there's not going to be that seat limit that we experienced with Odyssey and Inquire. And so as we get new people moving into our community, they're able to also put forward an application for Aspire. We had the 6 enrichment planning areas of biomedical, computer science, engineering, fine arts, global studies, and graphic design. These were developed by the planning committee as well as the focus groups. I can tell you global studies kind of started as something else, and through one of our parent focus groups, our parent really kind of helped focus in and change it and make it look better. And so we had a lot of input into these, and again, this was bringing together the best of both worlds. You see the STEM represented for Odyssey, and you see the humanities represented for Inquire. The 6 teams that are now kind of developing the framework for these enrichment are made up of K-12 teachers. We have elementary art teachers. We have all the way up to our 12th grade Project Lead the Way teachers and a bunch of people in between. We also have several members of our A&M faculty and community members involved as well. I am a former social studies teacher. I am hardly an expert in many of these topics, and so to get all of these experts together in a meeting to develop what are the topics we're going to discuss, it was really amazing. It was great to see them playing off of each other and say, oh, we could do this or we could do this. And so those are coming along. Part of the process of these meetings is that we wanted to set the objectives. We wanted to, what are the topics we're going to cover? What enrichment experiences can be offered? And so getting ideas of where are guest speakers at A&M that could come in? Who are the field trips? What are the virtual experiences that these students could have to make deeper connections to the topics? And then what resources can teachers use? What series of lessons are already out there or project-based learning that will make it simple for these teachers who are also not necessarily experts in the area, really gain knowledge quickly and feel comfortable with the topic. So this is an example of what the framework will end up looking like. 3 of them are almost done. 3 of them are halfway done. And so it gives them a sample week. It gives them what are the topics and the definitions of those topics. And then you can see it starts giving them the resources and different things like that. And so the next step is going to be for the Aspire teachers to come together this summer and work on their 6 weeks calendars. One of the challenges is going to be that we have 6 weeks that are 25 days and we have 6 weeks that are 34 days. And if I'm teaching biomedical every 6 weeks, I have to have enough curriculum to make it short or to go long. And so that'll be something we work on this summer to make sure teachers feel good with the materials that they have. And then one of the things that I've been discussing with the principals that I asked them to put on their to-do list is to plan an Aspire Enrichment Showcase, one in the fall and one in the spring, so that all of the projects that they're doing in Aspire can be shared with their parents as well as the community. So while we were looking at all of the pieces of what does enrichment look like, we started with the end in mind. And so, of course, one of the end parts for our students at high school is Project Lead the Way Biomedical and Project Lead the Way Engineering. And so we had a lot of discussion about how can we take that backwards so that when students get to high school, they can make those decisions and know what they are. And so what we decided is, can we bring Project Lead the Way all the way down so those students are already experiencing it and getting those hands-on opportunities? Well, we found that they are awesome modules. They are absolutely turnkey. They are ready for any teacher to pick up and be able to understand how to run these lessons and what the projects look like at the end. So at intermediate, it'll be approximately 1,200 students who experience a Project Lead the Way module. In Aspire, it's going to be used in the 5th grade enrichment. And then in 6th grade, it will be used across all science classes. So not just advanced academics. All science classes in 6th grade will get to experience at least one Project Lead the Way module. And hopefully this will ignite a passion and an interest in sciences for all of these students. Ross Elementary will have 550. It will be in the Explore Academy. But they're also going to run it as a special so that every student K through 4th grade will run through this special throughout the year to experience it. And then Jones Elementary, it'll be 300 students. They're running it through their 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade science classrooms as well as their after-school STEM club. Now, I know you're all thinking, oh God, she's going to ask us for money. But I have to say, I am so proud of these principals that they all wrote grants and were able to get funded the license fee for 3 years as well as all the professional development for 3 years. And as part of that professional development, we actually get the opportunity to have a trainer of trainers so that we will have our own in-house trainers. So once this grant is over, we will have people who can train future Project Lead the Way teachers. And that is it. Any questions?
The students that were not accepted into the program, you said you had over 500, those were not those are mainly because of their qualifications versus
sir.
space, is that
Yes, sir.
correct?
Yes, there was no space
I mean, not
requirement.
good, but I'm
Yeah.
glad to hear that if you want to get in and you qualify, you're able to. So I know
Yeah.
y'all work very hard to make
And one
that
thing
happen.
we really encouraged those students who didn't qualify was to enter into advanced courses. You know, Aspire, you have to be in all 4 core advanced. Well, there's a lot of students who may only be good at math or science, not so good at English. Advanced courses give them the opportunity to have that pick and choose, what are my strengths, so I can continue to grow those while I'm working on my other ones.
Thank you.
All right.
Any other questions?
Are you having fun?
Yes, I am learning a lot. It is amazing, all the different enrichment areas. And then Project Lead the Way, I have to say, has been a lot of fun to dig into and look at, and look at how it's being taught all the way from kindergarten all the way up into high school. So it has been exciting, and I have learned a lot.
That's neat.
Have you had much feedback on kids that maybe want to do this or say they want to do it, or maybe the parent wants them to do it, and then there's some, obviously the child is not doing well. So how do y'all handle that if that does come up, or maybe, hopefully it's been rare, but
Yeah.
I assume it does come
I'm
up.
assuming you're speaking of Aspire, not
Yeah.
Project, okay.
Well, yes.
So one of our projects this summer is to create that process. We have done it in the past, but it's not been formalized. It's been up to the campus. And so we're looking at basically like student success teams, that after that first 6 weeks, if we see students who are struggling in Aspire, that an action plan is created. I know as a parent, one of the most frustrating things is for a teacher to be like, yes, your student's doing bad. Okay, well, thank you. What are we going to do about it? And so giving that opportunity for the parents and teachers to work together to develop a real plan of, okay, what can we do to help intervene? And then continue to monitor that student throughout the semester. And if they improve, excellent, it's worked. If they don't improve, okay, what are our next steps? What are we missing? Anything else?
It's a lot of work. Thank you.
I was going to say, it sounds like a lot of work and planning has happened, so thank you.
Thank you.
Great job on those grants.
Yes.
I was going to say, they are not easy to write, I'm sure. All right, next up, we have safety and security update.
Good afternoon. I am here to report to you.
Is this your first time in front of us?
No, ma'am.
No? Okay. So I'm going to ask for, in the future on our agenda, we add a speaker name to the agenda.
I agree, absolutely.
And part of the reason we're going to do that is because we often get asked by the media, who was the person speaking when we don't introduce ourselves. So I apologize that I haven't asked people to introduce themselves. But I know you're relatively new for us, so if you wouldn't mind doing that.
Not at all, ma'am.
Perfect, thank you.
My name's Rich Himmel. I am your Assistant Director of Safety and Security, and I'm happy to be here.
We're happy to have you here, thank you.
I am having a bad hair day, though, so.
It happens, Rich, it happens.
I'm here to report the findings of 2 intruder detection audits conducted in the district on April 17th of this year. And we'll be discussing these at length in closed session later. On the first campus, an inspector from the Region 6 Education Service Center found 1 exterior door to be unsecured. That was a finding in the audit. Later in the audit, the inspector found 1 interior classroom door to be unsecured. Now, because our district has a policy that requires all classroom doors to be closed and locked during instructional time, this was considered to be a finding as well. The principal of that school has conducted in-person remedial training with all staff members on the campus. At the second campus, same day, April 17th of this year, the inspector found all exterior doors to be secured. Later on in the audit process, the inspector found one interior classroom door to be unsecured. And again, because of our district policy, this was determined to be a finding. The principal at that school has similarly conducted in-person remedial training with all staff members. That concludes my briefing. Do you have any questions for me?
If I may just reiterate, thank you for saying that that was our policy. I just want to remind the board and our community that in Bryan ISD, because safety and security is our #1 priority, we go above and beyond the minimum expectation to just focus on exterior. We made it clear in our district that we want the doors to be locked and closed for all interior doors. So I just want everyone to know that that is above and beyond what is expected, and we feel good about that decision.
Yeah, I was actually going to bring up the same, but I do find it I would like to thank
Thank you.
everyone for making that a policy, because as you all explained, we have the option of saying, no, we're not going to count it, we're not going to require the doors to be locked on the inside, and then we wouldn't get dinged for it, and we wouldn't get, as we're saying, written up for it.
Yes, sir.
But I really, as I think we all do, care more about the safety, the actual safety of our students and teachers and staff than a report. So I commend everybody. This was before my time, but I commend everyone for taking that stance to make sure that our students are safe beyond our numbers. That is the only thing that matters, and I thank everybody for that. So thank you.
Yes, sir.
And as our teachers get more used to doing this, this is our first couple of months to do, particularly the interior doors, because that's every day, all the time. And so one of the consequences is those two campuses having to do the remediation. New teachers will have to catch on too, but it's just one of those things that it will catch on, and teachers, even students, will remind the teacher to close and lock the door.
Yes, ma'am. It's a constant process of improvement.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next is district data systems update.
That is the best idea. They do, because I get the same questions.
Good afternoon. I'm Jennifer Lemons. I'm the Director of Data Services. And I'm here to update you on our process of software review. So we'll just jump right into it. What we're talking about today is our student information system and our enterprise resource planning system. So those pieces of software are made up of things like all of our student demographic information, schedules, grades, discipline, and our ERP system are things like human resources, payroll, fixed assets, finance, everything that runs the business of the school district. So it's important to us to make sure that we are getting our best value for that, because that drives everything that we do. So our current software is PowerSchool, and we have been using this vendor since 1995. The software has changed names, has changed owners, and of course it's gone through updates and different changes to the way the software looks. But over that time, as those changes have occurred, then we have adapted to new people at the company, new ways to submit tickets, just new processes and procedures with that company. So just a little bit about our review process. It's something that we do every 5 years. We feel like I said, this is so big that we need to make sure we are getting the most bang for our buck. And that cycle began for us this time around in the spring of '22. We started with software demos, and during that process, we see a really big, high-level overview of what the software can offer. But invariably, through that, we want to see a little bit more detail. And so we began and spent the rest of the spring of '22 taking a deeper dive. And in May, we decided let's pause and kind of step back a little bit. We were feeling kind of a little bit of angst, and we thought, this is so important, it's nothing to rush. It would be better to go slow to go fast. We picked back up in the fall, where we went to the Skyward User Conference, where we got the opportunity to talk with other users, people at the company, and just kind of get to see how other people felt about the software. It was all a very positive experience. Then we began to look at what the cost proposals would look like. We connected our counselors with another school district so we could hear what they had to say, so those counselors could kind of talk shop and understand how the other school district used the software. So it's been a long process, but one that I felt like was absolutely necessary. Just to give you a picture of who participated in those software demos, last spring we had 16 participants for the ERP, and 19 for our SIS, and then we had 31 teachers participate in a gradebook demo. And so the people that make those demo participant groups up are super users of the software, district administrators, our counselors, our iSupport team members, and our teacher leaders. They're the people that use the software kind of to the nth degree. They have been through the thick and thin. For example, a lot of these teachers have been through other grade book changes, and so we really value their input and wanted to know what they had to say about it. During the demo, we used a rubric. It had a variety of categories that we looked at. One of the things that I always am curious about is what are the implementation services like? Are we assigned a project manager? Who would hold our hand should we move forward with this? What features we have, how usable is the software, and then of course just training and state reporting requirements. At the end of the demos, we had all of the participants turn in their rubric, and the score showed that Skyward was rated 15% higher than the other two, and the other two were actually our current software and then another one. And those other two softwares, their score was actually tied. So that showed us that we needed to really take a deeper dive and look into what Skyward had to offer. Some of the feedback that we got, I felt like was very positive after the demos. I loved I love it. It's super simple, and it was people you could tell during the demo they were really kind of taking in what they were hearing and already thinking how it could benefit them. So the deeper dive that we took was, like I mentioned, counselors. They wanted to sit down with Skyward, and they wanted to say, show me how I schedule a brand new student. Now show me how I change a student's schedule when it's November and I've already had a couple of 6 weeks and I've got grades that need to be moving around. Then we said, you know what, could we have sandbox accounts so that we could get in and just kind of play around on our own? And it was a wonderful test to see how we could take our knowledge of our current system and could it translate pretty easily to Skyward. And so the software company allowed us to have those sandbox accounts, and that was very helpful. During that time, we also had lots of Q&A sessions with them. We would try to figure out how to do, I don't know, whatever in the software, and then we would get on the phone with them and say, hey, can you kind of hold our hand and help us understand how this works? I mentioned we already went to the Skyward conference, but due diligence is important to us, and we wanted to make sure that we had tried to implement everything that we could with our current software. And so what we tried to do was implement advanced workflows and position control. And what we thought was going to be maybe the answer for us to really kind of say we feel like we should stay with PowerSchool really showed us that it didn't quite give us what we were looking for. It didn't provide the work efficiencies. And in this day and time when everyone is so burdened under a heavy workload, work efficiency is very important for all of our employees. And we just really didn't feel like we were getting that with PowerSchool. Instead of removing steps, it kind of added steps or complexities. And throughout this whole past year, our HR, finance, payroll users continued to express an interest in Skyward. I can't tell you how many times I would see one of them in the hallway and they would say, so what are we gonna do? Are we moving to Skyward? What's going on with it? I mentioned our counselors earlier and working with another school district. Our counselors have said that they do like what software we use now. I feel like they are very comfortable, they've mastered it. So they have expressed that they do like eSchool, but that they were absolutely willing to be flexible and that they liked learning and they were up for the challenge if the decision was made to change the software. So what are some of the benefits for moving to Skyward? One of the absolute top is that it's a cloud-based solution, which speaks to our dedication to increasing our cybersecurity on all levels. It would provide work efficiencies. For example, the home screen users can create something called a live tile where it may tell you, I have this many purchase requisitions that need to be approved, or this many teachers haven't taken attendance yet, and I would know, I could click the button and figure out and send them a message to go ahead and take attendance. There are savings that we would see on our annual software support and infrastructure costs, and then of course just the usability of the software itself. I wanted to know, in comparison, how many districts in Texas use Skyward as opposed to PowerSchool? And the graphic there to me was very telling that Skyward has a very large user base in the state of Texas and across the nation. But there's also a flip side. There's challenges, and the challenges are really the large scale of this data migration and software change. It would require a commitment across the board for everyone to pull in the same direction, and it would alter how we would work. So while that's a challenge, it's also a benefit because over time you kind of do workarounds and you get into a pattern, and stepping back to look at how you could change and improve that is always good. And then, of course, there is the initial financial impact of changing software. A conversion timeline could look something like this, where if we decided to make this change, the work for that conversion would start right away, and we would spend the next 6 months during that, facilitating that process. For a go-live date for the ERP, so in January of '24, we would be using Skyward for all things HR, payroll, finance, warehouse, fixed assets. Kind of concurrently, beginning probably actually in that summer, but we would begin the same process for the student information system, where we would be working on that conversion. Of course, that is a larger scale and one that takes more time, so the go live for the SIS could potentially be August of 2025. So the implementation costs, if we were to move forward with Skyward, there would be an initial payment, and they have agreed to split that implementation cost over 3 years. So I have, this slide explains that it's about $1.5 million to make this conversion. I did build in a contingency amount, regardless of how much planning we do and pour over everything, something will come up and that we may not have planned for. So I felt like it would be better to have the contingency set aside for that, although it may not even need to be used. And
Is that over and above what we're paying now?
it is over what we're paying now just because that is the implementation. So once you get past that implementation, and let me.
It'll get better.
Yeah, so that you may be getting to it, but like what we're using now isn't free.
That's correct.
So
What we're using now is not.
what's the cost
difference between what we're using now and the new thing?
Right, so let's get past the implementation phase. We would save annually $35,000 on annual support costs, and we would save the need to spend $280,000 on infrastructure upgrades. So those infrastructure upgrades aren't just a one-time thing. They come around in cycles where you're replacing servers and district network storage for the data. Additionally, it is housed on site currently, and which does not provide us with as much cybersecurity protection as that we would prefer. There's also potential future savings. These are just software packages that we currently use that are not part of PowerSchool. They are not, they're add-ons, so to speak, and so we could potentially get rid of these once we were up and running on Skyward. Skyward does have the ability to do some of these items here. So it's just that implementation phase, and then you move forward. We actually looked at all the costs involved over a course of 9 years, implementation and comparing annual cost, implementation costs versus PowerSchool, recurring cost, infrastructure upgrades, and it was only $124 difference over 9 years. So it eventually is a wash, pretty much.
Where's the company based?
They are based in Wisconsin.
So how do we know, or we have some assurance that their annual cost is not going to go up?
I think all software companies have a slight increase in their software. The 9-year estimate that I put together, I applied a 3 to 4% increase every year.
Okay.
It could range anywhere from 3 to 5%. So.
Well, we're making a big commitment up front, and I'm just trying to understand, because when we talk about how much it's going to be saved annually, it would be nice to have some assurances from the company that they're not going to say, well, we got you now, and so the increase is significant. So, because once we make the initial commitment, it's not like we can just walk away from it. So I guess it is what it is. I just would really like to get some assurances from these companies that they're not going to increase over a certain amount or hit us with something that we were totally not expecting, because there's nothing in the contract to prevent it.
Yeah, my question was, in other past experiences, when software companies come and do demos, and they're showing you the thing with all the bells and whistles, yes, and that isn't what we got, right? And so then people are disappointed at implementation because what they played in the sandbox with is not what we ultimately had. So are we experiencing the real deal? I didn't know if there's levels of this thing like there are with so many different, are we getting what our people are playing with?
Yes, this is the current version that they are selling at this point. So there are people in the state that use an older version, but we are not interested in that. We want the version of the software that we were shown in the demo.
Are you ready for questions? Or do you have some more to go?
No,
I wanted to elaborate on that.
That was it.
That potential savings slide, if you'll go back one. As a former Skyward SIS user in a previous district, besides saving money and not having to go out to 4 different entities to satisfy the needs for these particular tasks, just that streamline. For example, I'll use Cardonics. In my previous district, we did all master scheduling in Skyward. So it was very user-friendly because we knew the system inside and out. So I was actually surprised when we got here and we had to go and get Cardonics to do master scheduling because our current SIS doesn't really have the capability. So just streamlining it and using one system for everything is much more conducive for our users.
Yes, and one thing I forgot to mention, I did not want to mislead anyone. We would continue to use Schoology, which is from the PowerSchool company. That is definitely something that would stay. So PowerSchool was not going away totally. And there are Skyward users that utilize Schoology. We brought that up in the demo from the get-go, and so we were very, happy with that, and we weren't intending to change that. So,
And that, I was gonna add that the implementation cost, is, a lot of it is in response to having to run both our current system and the new one concurrently. And so Jennifer's already paying for eSchool and eFinance to continue that on while we're doing this transition. And so once she takes over that, that's when we'll see the savings right after.
Do y'all have the slide that y'all showed us that showed the breakdown? I think that would be very helpful to a lot of us because it was it shows you over the 9-year period what the costs are, what the difference is. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
I do.
That one was, for me, it was very, very helpful to be able to.
And we can share that out.
Okay.
We didn't actually include it in this one since we knew we had some other conversations that needed to take place before we just make a decision, finding funding if that's available, identifying that. So, yes.
It was really helpful for me to kind of see what's going on. And would it be possible to ask, I think Mr. Stasny has a great point about asking for like a maximum increase, and that's pretty common.
I wrote that down.
Okay,
Yes.
okay, I agree, that's a great question, Mr. Stasny.
And I will say, Jennifer didn't mention that we had already gotten kind of an idea of what that contract would look like. And what was nice was there were a couple of things we asked that they add to the software. And so we already have someone reviewing that, a lawyer already reviewing that contract and looking at our options of saying we specifically want these things included. So,
Sure.
like you mentioned.
Yeah, those contracts I know are really important. If we don't state it in there that we get certain things or certain pieces of support, then the expectation is it doesn't happen. Ms. Waller, did you have a question?
Yes, I did. Two things. So can you go back to the slide that shows the timeline, especially for teacher, there we go. So for SIS, the fall through the summer, are teachers going to have access to be able to work on this when they don't have kids in front of them? Like, can they work on this in the summer?
yes.
And is it going to take away from professional development, or if they come up, will they be paid to learn this? Because learning this as they go during the school year is
Not,
ugh.
right.
So
That, what our plan would be is the summer PD that occurs, that this, the grade book would become part of that summer PD, so that the teachers have an opportunity to learn that. That I-support team, there's a representative at every campus that's a teacher leader in technology. They would be getting probably more training, so that they would be a good resource to help the teachers. So it would just be built into that professional development that's occurring naturally throughout the summer.
because, as you well know, I mean, you've been here, I don't know, almost as long as I have, but you started when you were 12. But, it's almost like this is so important. The teachers that we already have on board, this should be all of their professional development, because it's going to take that long for them to learn it so that they're not nervous when school starts. And so that's my say on that part, is that teachers should get every bit of their training so that they feel, as much as possible, feel confident before the school year starts. And like you said, they have somebody available.
Right.
And then what is the connection with the students? How are the students going to be connected in this and trained? I know you said we'll still have
Schoology.
Yes.
Will we still have
Schoology.
home access center? Is that how
Right.
they'll get their grades?
There is, Home Access Center is part of the Power School software suite. So there is an equivalent with the Skyward, a parent portal, a student portal, where they can log in and see grades and assignments
So
and things of that nature.
how is that training going to happen so it's not December before the kids and the parents get it?
Right, we would work with our project manager to help roll that out. I'm sure that we could have videos for parents, handouts for parents, open house, all of the back to school information that is normally going to parents. Like, for example, I'm pointing to Julie, like, our technology department went around kind of a traveling roadshow to all of the Meet the Teachers, and we had tables set up and computers set up to kind of walk parents through. Some parents said, I've got it, just give me the handout, I'd rather do that at home. And some wanted us to hold their hand and walk them through it. And we have done that for multiple years, so that's one avenue that we could help disseminate that
I'm not
information.
against it. I'm just saying all those things we need to know because we're the ones that, part of the ones that will be
Absolutely.
asked this.
Yes.
And we need to let them feel relieved when they ask us questions and talk to us about it.
Absolutely.
We also need to make sure we understand it enough so the kids don't pull the wool over the parents' eyes before the parents have a chance to.
Yeah, can you hear some kids saying,
Oh.
I don't know why you can't get into the home access center. Yeah, that's.
And,
yes.
you know, the same thing with our Spanish-speaking children, too, and parents. So we just need to be able to, if we go with this, we, too, everybody in here, we all need to know those dates and times and meetings and places and just reassure our teachers they're going to have, you know, as much plenty as the word plenty can go of time to, because, you know, learning a new software is, if you're over about 45.
It's not age dependent. So I've been corrected before. It's not about our age, right? It's just about our adaptability to change. And some of us are more adept at that than others, right? So, but it is monumental when you change the major systems. But it sounds like there's some real benefits in going cloud-based. Like, it's probably time for us to explore those as options. My question had to do with Forecast 5 and the investment we made in that and getting those feeds into Forecast 5 from our current system. So is that on the radar and will it work as intended?
Yes. The company that makes Forecast 5 has a data layout of the different components they want, and we actually verified that with Skyward and said, we're using this, we have written the program that sends the data, and that will need to continue. And they actually said, well, it's great that you wrote that, but we have so many customers that use that. We have those exports built in for you.
Okay.
And so
Awesome.
we have absolutely.
So
checked
it'll
it out.
work as intended seamlessly from our viewer end of those dashboards, hopefully.
We wanted to make sure
all
of
goes
that.
well.
And when you undertake a big change like this, I mentioned the project management part of it, and that is something that Skyward comes in right away. They have, first of all, they have taken customers from Power School to Skyward before, so they know what has to happen, and we have tried to plan it out where we have given our employees, our users, our teachers, parents, and students enough time to get accustomed to things, for training to be developed, handouts, videos, and to all the different touch points where we can help people do that. So I feel like there's obviously going to be bumps in the road. Any kind of change does produce those, but we have been working really hard to come up with a way to mitigate those.
Along with everything else teachers
yes.
are expected.
Any other questions?
So it sounded like you implied at least that Power School is not cloud-based?
They are not cloud-based.
Okay, and this is probably a bigger discussion for another day, but I didn't find out till recently that the parent company of St. Joseph CHI paid approximately $150 million to just deal with a ransomware attack. You know, it was a national issue with them because they have, you know, lots of stuff all over the place. And of course, it was incredible. And you would think that they would be very sophisticated in their security, but I guess not enough. So is this in your view kind of bulletproof, or is that kind of stupid to even say? Because I don't know if anything's bulletproof to be cloud-based.
So I will say cloud-based is not bulletproof, and the reason is because we're human.
So people lose passwords, they get, phishing emails, accidentally click on links. So cloud-based does not, solve necessarily the human problem, but what it does is it provides a more protective, I guess you would say, fence around the software that will help. And then it also allows us to duplicate that content easily. So if something does where they go in and erase content, that we'll be able to pull that and be back up and running. So we're not down like some of the districts we've seen here in Texas for weeks and weeks.
But we've still potentially lost confidential information that they.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And I think, we put a lot of things in place where we monitor traffic going on and coming back and forth through our district. We do a lot of those things right now and have a lot of partners helping us watch that. But I will say no one is really immune because it takes one bad phishing email that can get you.
Well, I guess we need to make sure that everybody knows that.
Yes, yes.
But the cloud-based solution offers what benefits compared to hosting our own servers?
So I'll get a little technical, but we have our own DMZ, which protects our data inside our Network Operations Center. And of course, that's something we maintain. We have to keep updated and watch, and we have all these little appliances that are watching that traffic I mentioned. So what's nice is when you give it to someone to keep in the cloud, then they're now responsible. We have more professional reliability as far as keeping that data safe. And, as opposed to us, and as we have turnover and, retraining, so it helps us be more secure because we're going to have other professionals helping us.
It shifts
That
some
makes sense.
liability too, doesn't it? I mean,
It does.
If there's $100 million
It does.
ransom, it's not going to be on BISD,
Absolutely.
it's going to be on the.
Well,
Absolutely.
I know that even like the banking industry.
Yes.
These are the models they're going to.
It
I mean,
is.
They used to be very much mainframe,
Yeah.
hosting their own data, and now it's moving more cloud-based. So,
Exactly. We're slowly getting all of that out of our operations center. One thing Jennifer didn't add, though, about, and I lost what I was going to say.
While you think.
Okay.
We did ask Power School about cloud-based. They do offer that. And we talked with their engineers, and honestly, their engineers said I wouldn't recommend it. But their model, not that they wouldn't recommend cloud-based, but what they offered, they said they wouldn't recommend it. So
That's
then
not their model.
I
really.
went to other school districts in Texas that are on their cloud-based option, and the ones I spoke with said, we're trying to get off of it. It's got a lot of delay. It just was not a good situation at all. So at that time, when we learned that, then you begin to feel like, well, now what are my options, then we started looking around and saw that Skyward's customer base, there are some that have on-premises servers, but not very many. So I think everyone is, like you said, it's just kind of what
It's the
natural
direction
step.
of technology now.
One thing that kind of helps me is when we bought this software, I'd only been teaching 13 years.
I
And so
just
that's
graduated
how
from
old.
college.
Yeah, so 19, enough said, it's that old.
We have used it, we have adapted with it. There have been times where we found a limitation to the Power School software, but we needed it to do a certain thing for us. And staff and departments across the district collaborate and go, well, how can we make a workaround? And then pretty soon you have workarounds for your workarounds. And then what should just be a click is a click, run a report, download it, sort it, email it, upload it, and then finally after 10 steps, I've got what I need.
Which costs our people's time, and time is valuable.
It does.
So
It does. The
I-
initial time
yeah.
savings, we may not see that immediately because there's a learning curve. But that feedback slide, during the demo, when they were showing some of those work efficiencies, I was hearing comments everywhere, oh my gosh, I would love that. And that's that's really good that they were already seeing ways that they could use it to improve their workflows and their efficiencies.
Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you so
we'll
much.
Look forward to seeing that again soon on a future agenda.
I didn't mean to steal your thunder on both of those issues. I apologize. So,
And that was Julie Johnson joining Ms. Lemons. And next is our Special Education Services update.
I'll teach you a new sign. Good afternoon. One of the things that was exciting about thank you very much, the sign language spotlight today is two of our employees that are, one's retired and one has moved to a different area, Danette Anderson Lira and Carla Carey. They were my sign language teachers 20 years ago when I was at Blinn College with my ASL 1 through 4 classes while a student at A&M. So I just missed Carla Carey because I think she just retired, but Miss Lira moved a few years ago, but she's just down the road in Kyle, Texas. So it's been really great to come full circle here at Bryan ISD with the history.
Awesome. Could you introduce yourself? I did,
yes.
I asked folks to introduce themselves, and I did hear back from one of our friends in the media saying, thank you for having people do that, because apparently he's been messaging Clay Falls asking, who is that talking? So,
yes.
Yeah.
I'm Jennifer Warren, Executive Director of Special Programs, and I joined this school year, and it's been a pleasure to serve you.
Thanks, Jennifer.
When we're talking about the hard of hearing today, and I'm going to ask you to move the microphone a little closer to you, because I'm one of those hard of hearing people, maybe not all the way to that I need sign language, but getting close.
I'm close, David.
I could do it. I could sign it for you, but you may not understand it. So yes, I will speak louder. I'm going to provide you with two updates today. One is on sustainable staffing models, and the other is on some programming recommendations that came from some of our advisory groups. They're two very different updates, so I'm going to pause in between the two so that we can ask questions about one before shifting to another direction. But with the sustainable staffing model, earlier this school year, you heard from our Human Resources Department about a sustainable staffing model where you can utilize your full-time employee positions in some creative ways to not just fill your vacancies, but also to better utilize those positions to build capacity and serve students. And as we go into this update, I want to do almost a spin-off of that to show you what that could look like in the special education world and how we can build capacity within our special education vacancies and our positions. So before we get into that, I want to explain what a traditional model of staffing would look like in special education. And this would be very particular to a self-contained setting. So you can put into your minds maybe a setting where we have very limited functioning and we're working on life skills. And in this model, this example, that would be 4 classrooms that have 1 teacher each and 2 paraprofessionals to serve students with those very significant needs. So every one of the students would have an IEP and would spend the majority of their day in this self-contained setting. And each one of those classrooms would serve between 10 and 14 students. In the traditional staffing model, if you had a vacancy, like you see on classroom D in this graphic, what we would typically do is disperse those students out to the other teachers, and their caseloads would become higher, and maybe the paraprofessionals, or maybe those are also vacant, but we would try to provide staff to support those higher numbers, ensuring that their IEP minutes and services were provided. But then also, those classroom teachers that we do have staffed would potentially work through their conference, and there is compensation for when a teacher works through their conference, but it's still a higher caseload for them. Or it could be that we are able to find a sub to put into the classroom to serve the students as well, but we know that we want that certified teacher with those high quality qualifications. So moving from this, we are looking at a potential model to not just make sure that we have a certified teacher in the classroom, but we also are building capacity within our staff members and building a pipeline for future teachers. And that's what you'll see in this model here. In this model, you would go from 4 classrooms down to 3, like you would in the other model. But instead of those teachers just absorbing those students and having those higher caseloads, you would create a mentor position from that vacancy. So it's not an added FTE, but it is honoring a person in the district that has those mentoring qualities, that has success in the classroom, and setting them up to be a mentor to classrooms A, B, and C. And with those instructional assistant positions, Texas A&M has partnered with us to ensure that we would have our clinical teachers, our student teachers in their last year of residency, to come in and serve as one of those instructional assistants in the classroom and to be paid as such. So in this model, you are taking a teacher vacancy and creating a mentor position that does come with a stipend of $10,000. And then our instructional assistant vacancies that were in classroom D, if you remember, moving over into classroom A and B to become instructional assistants, paid as such, but they are resident teachers from Texas A&M University that will be graduating in December. And once they graduate in December, they are those certified teachers that can fill other vacancies within the district. And then a commitment from Texas A&M University that another round of resident teachers come in and fill these IA positions for the remainder of the school year and graduate in May, potentially filling our vacancies for the next school year. And this would just become a cycle. So with this model, you are not only filling your vacancies for paraprofessionals with high quality, on the edge of becoming certified teachers, but you're also creating a cycle of sustainability, bringing in those student teachers to fill those vacancies every semester. When we presented this model with A&M and we really fine-tuned this, the commitment could be for 2 clinical teachers for classroom A and B to have 1 each. But the conversation centered around, but what about classroom C? What can we do for them to ensure that they also have that future teacher serving in that classroom? So the commitment from Texas A&M is to ensure that we have clinical 2 teachers, which are teachers that are still a little further out from graduating and becoming certified, but they would be here between 3 and 5 days a week, a slow release model into the classroom, so starting at 3 days and shifting towards 5 by the end of the school year, to ensure that classroom C has that future teacher serving in that classroom. Now, they would not serve as an instructional assistant. They would be extra hands in that classroom learning alongside that teacher and serving students, but not fulfilling that role as an IA. And so what you essentially see is a lower ratio of adult to students once those student teachers are in there serving. This model works. The ACE model, and ACE stands for Achieving Collaborative Excellence. This model works because that mentor teacher is not just overseeing those students that are coming in from Texas A&M University, but classroom A, B, and C are being poured into with a high leverage teacher that we have identified to be that mentor, that collaborator, and that person to oversee compliance in the classroom, and really pouring into those teachers. Classroom A, B, and C have the potential, after being poured into and coached and mentored, to then become the next year's mentor teacher, potentially at another campus or at that same campus, and then pour that into those teachers. So this model could grow. This is a pilot for this next school year for us to dig into it and see how this mentor teacher can really work well with these, not just classroom teachers, but our paraprofessionals from Texas A&M as resident teachers in the classroom. There are some benefits to this that I've already mentioned, but I want to make sure that we point out that the ACE teacher would be not just someone who has high success in the classroom with their students, but it's someone who's highly collaborative, someone who has good communication skills, someone who can self-direct and walk into a classroom and see a need and fill a need and work with that teacher to have that immediate coaching in the classroom. Also, we want to make sure that those classroom teachers, such as in A, B, and C, have a pathway to become a mentor teacher themselves once they have built that capacity. We also want to make sure that our para positions are filled with those high-quality future teachers so that not only are they being compensated for the work that they do, but they also build that attachment to our district, that hometown feel that we love here in Bryan ISD that I get to experience this year, that they feel that investment and then they stay on with us as a school district and become our teachers in those vacant classrooms. Before I move on to the next update, I want to open it up to questions with the sustainable model, and I'm going to flip it back to the model because I'm sure that's very helpful to direct the conversation.
I have two questions.
Yes.
Will any of this facilitate the teacher being able to have ARDS during the class time? Or will the teacher always still have to be in the classroom and still have to have ARDS not during class time?
Sure. So for the general education teacher, we really honor that conference period, and our special education teachers serve on that ARD committee, and at times they are pulled from that instruction time so that our instructional assistants will step into that service while the teacher represents at the ARD committee. What you see with self-contained is you still have that general education teacher attending, but we really try to make sure that our self-contained teachers have those ARD committees during their conference period.
Right. Okay. And then the extra students, or of course, that's one of the things that works here, but the classroom teacher will still have full responsibility for all the paperwork on each child?
Yes,
and
but that,
no help from any of the people that are coming?
correct. So your clinical teachers can't do the paperwork by themselves independently, but that's a great teaching time for them to sit alongside and learn how to do that paperwork and build the capacity, so then when they become a first-year teacher, it's not the first time they've seen the paperwork. And then also your ACE teacher is there to also complete the paperwork, coach the teachers on the best practices, and build that capacity with them as well. So in essence, you not only have your classroom teacher, but you have your mentor and the clinical teachers as well.
That's good.
The principals that we have put this in front of just to gain some feedback from have said, this is a no-brainer, why are we not doing this? I said, okay, slow down, one campus at a time. They have almost convinced me that we can maybe do 2 campuses, but we do need that commitment from A&M on how many student teachers or clinicals they can provide us. So we're taking this one step at a time, but the campuses that we've spoken to are anxious to get this started.
Yeah, I was curious on the method student, how that would work, because they're still taking classes. Like, I don't know what it'd be a very limited role, I would guess.
Correct, and that's Classroom C that you're looking at, and that's why they would maintain the 2 instructional assistants, because you can't count on them for that.
It just gives
FTE.
them an early field experience.
Exactly.
Yes, good. Do we, and I know we're in conversations with A&M, but in terms of capacity, let's say this goes well in the pilot, is there enough capacity at A&M to do this district-wide? What would
that look like? Okay, it's really a 2-part question, so I'll answer it in one way and then follow up in another. But what this would look like is making sure that we have those clinical teachers, but if we don't, we can still fill that role with an instructional assistant. So this model can still be a sustainable model without the commitment from Texas A&M. However, we know that part of this is to ensure that we have that flow of teachers coming in.
Pipeline.
A pipeline. The other way I want to answer that question is to do this, you have to have enough of one type of teacher to collapse a position to create the mentor. So if you're looking at your secondary campuses where you have 4 to 5 different life skills sections and you have a vacancy, then you can collapse that to become the mentor over others. If you're at a campus where there are only 1 or 2 of you total, collapsing that position and creating a mentor, just that model, you can't really implement it with fidelity. So that's where your educational specialist, your special education team comes in and supports that campus along with several others. So yes, I would love to look at this district-wide if the pilot works very well for us. But I do think we're going to see this more limited to our larger campuses that consolidate programs into one area so that we can utilize those vacant FTEs.
I think it'll work. It'll be a great recruiting tool.
I think so too. And it would honor some of our teachers that have done some really great work and really don't want to leave the classroom. They're not looking for administration roles, but they have a lot to offer, and they could build some really great capacity in some of our other teachers.
That's awesome.
Okay, so the second part of my update, we're going to switch gears a little bit to some feedback that we received from our principals and our teachers across the district and our response to that feedback. So what we're looking at here is feedback not only from our monthly district leadership team, but also checking in with the superintendent, our advisory teams, PLCs, and then also some recommendations from TCASE. And we received most of this feedback through January of 2023. And as we gathered that feedback, we started meeting with an advisory team of principals to look at some of those recommendations. Those recommendations really centered around some of our programs that address social skills, emotional needs, and behavioral needs across the district for students with special education services. We have 3 different programs specific to autism, emotional disturbance, some of the social skills needs that are provided to our students in special education. And those programs are listed there on the right. We have Flex, Pass, and SOAR. And those programs are offered at a limited number of elementary schools across the district. And what we're finding in the feedback is that many times we can end up loading up students at some of our elementary schools and then needing a place for gen ed placements so that they can receive their inclusion time. And then also those numbers of students at these campuses can turn into extra paperwork or extra meetings and such, and those campuses are carrying a heavy load with those heavy caseloads that are coming to their campus from across the district. What we're proposing from those recommendations and feedback from advisory teams is to disperse these programs across the entire district into a program that we would call BEST, which is Behavioral, Emotional, and Social Team Support. Instead of moving a student to receive their services, we're moving the services to the student and allowing that student to stay at their home-zoned campus to receive those services. What we also see here is that our campus principals, teachers, gen ed, special ed, when those students are able to stay at their home-zoned campus, not only do our staff members have the ability to maintain that relationship with the student to provide those services, but the student is also able to stay at their home zone campus to build those relationships with the students that they live beside in their own neighborhood. What we're seeing with the feedback on this is that we want to ensure that there's plenty of training for our campuses if they are either going to receive back some of their students or if they're going to maintain their students that typically would have left their campus for a service, that we provide the training not just for the administration team and not just for the special education team, but also our general education teachers. So we do have on May 30th a TE Day coming up where we have loaded up the day with several sessions that are specific to special ed teachers, specific to gen ed teachers, specific to our administration team and special education. Several different sessions that are built specifically for their role at their campus to equip them with de-escalation skills, behavior management strategies, and such when dealing with very specific eligibilities in special education. We also wanted to ensure that if we have students that have gone to another campus other than their home zone campus to receive services and they've had a very successful placement, we want to make individual decisions. It's not just a quick shift and everybody goes back to your home zone campus. We need to make sure that our students, we're making those individual decisions before we shift them to another campus. And then our staff, we are staffed to make this model work. Right now, with the 6 campuses that these programs are at, we have staff at these campuses to provide services. And what we're finding is that if we were to disperse students back to their home zone campus, that's an average of about 5 to 6 students per campus that they would be receiving back. And they would also travel with a staff member that either they're familiar with or a staff member that's familiar with their eligibility to help provide those services. So with that, what we're finding is the benefits of this. The benefits of this, we've already talked about. The students could stay at their home zone campus. It's less transition for the student. If they need services, we don't have to set up meetings to get them over and take the time to do that. But then also, we don't have to transition the student away from the people that they know, the students that they learn alongside, the teachers that have been working with them. They get to stay put without that transition. We also get to provide that equity across the district so that we're not overloading one campus with those high leverage needs that the students have. And we get to build capacity across the district. What we're finding is that the campuses that serve students with these high needs are very equipped. They know how to dig down to the function of that behavior and really work well with that student. But the campuses without these programs, we need to build their toolbox and we need to build their capacity also. Because what's good for special education, we find, is also good for all students. And we need to make sure that we equip them. I believe we already discussed the transition considerations. So at this time, do you have any questions about this? And then we'll also talk about life skills after this.
Well, this brings to mind a term I learned in one of my special ed classes many years ago, which is least restrictive environment. Yes. So I feel like this is the right thing to do for our students. And in particular, if we're able to support our teachers in the way you previously described in building networks of mentors and support for, I know special education, it's an insurmountable amount of paperwork.
Yes.
And so I know we've had conversations too about how to support them through that.
Yes.
Other questions, comments?
I'd like to just add, and I know you mentioned this, but we worked really hard with the attendance boundary process and the advanced academics programs to put things in their neighborhood schools, and this does that as well. So kids can go to school with their neighborhood friends and be in a neighborhood type environment.
Absolutely.
This satisfies that for sure.
And then one last update on life skills. Our life skills sections at the elementary level, we have a few campuses that only have one section of life skills on their campus. And that can be somewhat limiting for the teacher not to have someone to plan with or collaborate with. And it also limits us on how we can create our functional groups for our students. So one change that we are making for this next school year is ensuring that our life skills sections are either combined at another campus so that they have that either partner or a trio of sections together, or if they're a standalone, then our standalones may be combined at one campus to create a partner so that they have that opportunity to lesson plan, collaborate, and build their functional groups. Okay. Do you have any other questions?
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
All right, that gets us to our items for discussion on our action consent agenda. There is one item. Do I hear a motion to approve, or do we need to move it to our full agenda for open consideration?
Can't find it on here. I would move to approve.
The motion is I move approval of all the items listed on the consent.
There we go. I move approval of all items listed on the consent agenda. Thank you, Dr. Harlan.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved by Mr. Gonzalez and seconded by Dr. Davis. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say no. Okay, motion approved. Next is our regular agenda, and first we have business services. Discuss and consider approval of a contract renewal for the Kickstart Kids program for the 2023-2024 school year.
So I'm Janice Williamson, Director of Athletics, Physical Fitness, and so forth.
Thank you, Janice.
With the opening of Sadbury Intermediate, we're taking a look at Kickstart and so forth. And there's also been a little bit of a drop at Davila. So we are taking a look at sharing a teacher between Davila and between Sedbury, and then having a fully staffed member at Jane Long and one at Rayburn. So that's kind of where we are with that. Kickstart last year wanted to raise the cost of the program, and we were able to negotiate with them, and they held off for a year, but they are increasing the cost a little bit. At this point, though, we have kids that have signed up at all of those schools. Davila will have approximately 60 kids, half in 7th, half in 8th grade. Jane Long has 170 5th graders, 77 6th graders. Rayburn, 125 5th, 109 6th. Sadbury has 5th grade only at 105. So taking a look at that, we'll have to make some decisions moving forward, but I'm going to let Kevin discuss that with you.
Yes, hello, and I'm Kevin Bisa. I'm the Assistant Superintendent of Business Services and the Chief Financial Officer for the district. And as Ms. Williamson mentioned, the history with Kickstart Kids goes back to about 2013, where it was at Long and Davila, and it was roughly $65,000 per campus. In 2017, Rayburn was added as well, so a third campus, and approximately $195,000, then the $65,000 per campus. And of course, costs have gone up for them as well. Kickstart is brought to our attention. They feel like the program cost them roughly $100,000 per campus, and so they've asked to increase it. Last year, they had a retirement in their administration, and so the contract got pushed out late, and so it had an increase in that we weren't aware of. So we asked them to back that down last year, which they did, with the caveat that they would add some of that back onto this year. So this year, what they're proposing is actually $76,000 per campus, which is $75,000 plus $1,000 of the increase from the prior year. The contract is written for 3 years, but there is a 30-day out for either party with no cause or anything. We just have to be by July 1, so that before the school year started. So our recommendation at this time would be, we're so far into the year, we would go ahead and recommend approval of this for the next school year, and then evaluate it again, look at our numbers, different things, and see, cost-wise, where does that put us for the future? And, is this a program? I mean, there's a lot of benefits as far as, the character building traits of the martial arts and all that come into this as a program. So would be to recommend move forward with this for the next school year, and then evaluate as we get into the year and see, is this something that we want to continue? And of course, we do that with, most of our programs at some time or another, to make sure that we're getting the best value for the district.
Well, unless something's changed, this is offsetting some costs that we would have to have if we didn't have the program, doesn't it? Or am I wrong about that?
That is true, because if we didn't have these instructors, we would need additional physical education instructors. So visiting with Barbara Bark, she said pretty much it's a wash.
I know, Ms. Harlan, the day you were elected, this was one of the things you wanted to see. I remember you came in so supportive of this.
Yeah, so I remember when I first came on, we were planning for our change. So our campuses changed to 5th and 6th grade campuses. And at that time, the plan was not to have Kickstart moving there and to the 7th and 8th grade. And so, it was good to have some input on that as a board member. I know that my son is one who really enjoyed his time in Kickstart, and there's a lot of benefits. I am concerned about the numbers at Davila, and I'm curious what's happening there. They seem lower than what I would expect, and so I know teachers make the difference, and so I hope that, you know, what we're doing at Davila is what we want for all of our students to experience. I also know that when you get into 7th and 8th grade, there's a lot of things pulling kids in different directions, so it may be a function of a lot of different variables, so.
I think athletics has picked up quite a bit, and so you're seeing many of those kids who might have chosen Kickstart moving into the athletic arena and that kind of thing. And
Sure.
so when we beef up athletics, then it makes it more attractive,
Right.
and the kids slide over. So I think pretty much that's what we were looking at.
Any other
And that's where
questions?
Kickstart was agreeable to splitting that, so there's, 2 to 3 class periods at Davila, and then the remainder will be at Sadberry, so.
Sure.
And they've done that with us before, where there's low numbers at one campus, they will work with us and
Well,
not
and
charge a whole nother.
I know that's hard on teachers to go back and forth between campuses, but I hope that it helps us continue to build and grow. Any other questions? Okay, if not, do we hear a motion?
I move to authorize district administration to enter into a contract with Kickstart Kids for the 2023-2024 school year.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved by Dr. Davis and seconded by Ms. Waller. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion passes. All right, that gets us into closed session. So the board will now convene in closed session to discuss the following items as allowed by Texas Government Code, Chapter 551.074, .0821, .076. No voting will take place in the closed meeting. Any action the board wishes to take as a result of discussion in closed session will take place after the board reconvenes in the open meeting. It is now 1:43 p.m.